Well, Happy New Year. As many of you know, I've got a little hobby, and it involves you know power, powerlifting. Many of you know me for electric machines and everything else. But when I am not on the road, which is not very often, I am at our facilities working. So basically sharpening the saw. To put some things into perspective this year, we're starting out 2020 with a brand new facility. In the past, we had a facility that I didn't have to worry too much about because we knew the building was going to be torn down soon. So it was basically reactive maintenance, and a lot of it. So the new facility is a little bit different. It's a 22,000 square foot facility. We were informed recently that they're finally tearing the building down for where we were. And we ended up with about, 2 weeks to build out this space. So I got everything on December 16th, the keys, and have had to go in, and there was some vandalism, some stuff had been removed and everything else. So this is a little bit different, and I'm going to give you an idea of how I sharpen the saw. So let's go and take a look at the new place. Yeah, it's bright and early on January 1st right now. We open tomorrow, the AM, and still have plenty of work to do. And of course, I've got my coffee from across the street. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look. Here's the new facility. Things went so fast. That sign will be there until January 16th. So we had to do a few things, such as, but we are not them. We are something else. So we are the judgment zone. People think, okay, so what's the point? What's the issues you can run into with a gym of this type? And let me tell you, I think Formula One racing, the equipment we use has to be maintained a specific way. And you're going to have to pardon the clutter, as I've got a crew coming in here shortly. But this equipment here, these are Formula One basically. This and this, and this is a competition bench and deadlift bars and platforms. One of those is what injured me before. By the way, Kid Zone means Howard's office. And then we've got cardio equipment and a few other things. So a lot of work to do still. We had to paint comes during a project later this year. We've got multiple large meets going to happen in here. This space up here is going to house close to 500 people in a few months, all at once. And we've got to get rid of that because that's just disturbing. In any case, well, I am going to go turn on the lights and give you a quick tour of the maintenance and reliability aspects of a facility of this type. I am going to show you what I mean by what these go through.
We start off on the men's side with the squat. What exactly goes into the squat as far as an equipped powerlifting meet? The equipment, the racks, everything. Donnie Thompson broke that down earlier today.
Here at the WPO Powerlifting Championships, we've got some pretty cool equipment on the platform. One is our squat rack. It's an upright squat rack that is incredible. It is super strong, super fast, and super easy to use. One thing that makes it quick is this hydraulic jack. This thing can lift up a ton, and these lifters will be lifting the equivalent of a Harley-Davidson Fat Boy motorcycle. You'll see. Next thing featured on this is we have a release mechanism. So when the spotter releases this, these J-hooks swing out, and the lifter can actually just go ahead and squat. They don't have to move around or anything, much safer. And when they're done, This comes back, they put this in and lock it, and the lifter can just put the weight right back in the rack. He doesn't have to do anything but squat. That is what is really nice about this rack. This rack also accommodates the shortest lifter to the tallest lifter, just like that. It moves up and down, in and out. It's ideal for the powerlifting championships you're going to be seeing today. Next, I'm going to have our powerlifter, Brian Carroll, come up and demonstrate the squat so you can see how this squat rack works. So he'll line himself up under the bar. And safety is a big thing here. So he has spotters from the side, spotter in the back. And when he's ready, they will unrack the weight. Then he goes to squat. And comes it up, rack comes in, and he's done. It's that easy. And now they'll set it up for the next lifter. Thank you, Brian. And that's what we have here at the WPO Championships for all the lifters to come in and squat on this type of rack. Incredible stuff, but hey, only the best for the strongest.
Yeah.
Is it like a clear the mechanism type thing?
Yes.
Where you try and wipe it clean?
Yeah, it's like once the wraps come off and he sits down for a minute, he'll get his bearings and he'll be good. Here we go.
Successful first attempt for Dave Hoff.
This is a tornado of talent right here.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
1,273 pounds here.
Yeah, that's quite a jump from his last one. And if he gets this, this will be a new world record of all time. Here we go. Looks good. Good control. Oh, wow.
Dave
This is going to be close.
Yes,
Oh, my gosh. Yes. That is one excited man right there.
Wow.
Now watch
Dave
this.
Hoff.
He's totally confident. No playing around. Gets it down in there. Comes up. Racks it. He knows he's got it at this point. He doesn't even look at the lights. He just starts celebrating because he knows he's got it. Again, you know, he has the biggest totals in history, more than anyone on planet Earth. And
He's our bench. We'll start on the men's side. But before we even get to that, how does the bench work? Technique, the equipment required, the rack that we use, all that is certainly coming. And we'll get a breakdown right now from Donnie Thompson.
At the WPO Powerlifting Championships, when we bench press, it doesn't look much different than the bench presses you see at most of the gyms. But we have some safety features here. One of them are these bars. So if anything gets out of control as the lifter is lowering the bar, these things are there to protect them. They're very helpful. The bench is pretty simple. We have a small platform for the spotter to stand on to lift off. And then we have the safety mechanisms here, and then the actual bench press. So they're all standard, not much, and we're gonna get our powerlifter, Brian Carroll, to demonstrate how we use this. So his spotters will come in, Brian will get set up, now the trajectory of this bar has to be perfect. Nice. And that is it. That's as simple. And stay right here, Brian. What we have here is supportive gear on the bench called a bench shirt. And the bench shirt is pretty much polyester, and it's a stretchy material, but it keeps everything on him compressed, mainly the shoulders and the arms. So you'll notice he had a hard time with that weight coming down. That's because he has to push against the confines of this shirt. And it goes right across here is the stress line. So when he gets under tremendous poundages, obviously that weight was light for him, but when he gets under the tremendous force of the bar and it's coming down, he's able to get that, come to a complete stop, and press it up. Using a shirt like this not only helps with safety, but it also adds to getting more poundages on the bench press. Thank you, Brian.
So Donnie Thompson and Brian Carroll demonstrating exactly one more event, of course, for James Burdett, and that is in fact the deadlift. What goes into the deadlift? Technique, equipment, everything. Donnie Thompson explained earlier today.
At the WPO Powerlifting Championships, the last lift performed of the day is the deadlift. As you can see, there's not much to the deadlift, but getting down there, grabbing the bar, and standing up with it. Now, powerlifting gear, in powerlifting, we have gear that we wear to support the lift. And this is called a deadlift suit. And there's not much to it. It's a poly suit. It allows a little bit of compression on the hips and to keep his back straight while he goes down to the bar. And when he ascends with the weight, he has the power like a spring being released, and he comes right up off the floor. And that's what these things help do. And that is what you'll see this afternoon at the WPO Powerlifting Championships on our last event.
So contrary to what people think, some of you know that I'm still a competitive lifter. I've been Team USA since 2012, representing the country each year in competition. First it was full power, and then bench press, because I now own a gym. So the amount of work that's involved, it's not all fun and games. And then moving into a facility like this, the opportunity to train properly is not quite the same. So this new facility, we had 3 days, which was 10 26-foot liftgate truck loads of equipment, office work, office supplies, maintenance equipment, flooring, everything else. We did this last weekend. We got people that you see on the platform who do spotting and loading. They helped us move everything in a relatively short period of time. So let's start out. This area here looks a little, that's all our old flooring, and there's Angry Snowman. I brought him along. He was guarding our areas before. But anyways, this area over here, this used to be a workout area. This is going to be a workshop. I've got some lathes planned and everything else. I have 480 volts coming into the building, got some wiring to have done, things like that. Walls are a little torn up. The last people over here went bankrupt. Commercial gyms don't last very long. We're not a commercial gym. A lot of work to do on the walkers. We did over the last couple of weeks. And the things that aren't the exciting part of what people do or think. So all of the sinks had to be redone. Still have a cleaning crew coming in today, led by you guys. Some of you guys might know Charlie. She's going to oversee all this stuff here. All of these, people don't think about this, but all these valves needed to be completely overhauled. Not a single one worked. And then, of course, same thing with showers. These are nice thing is the place was done up energy efficient. These are the same thing. You press them and they run water for about 3 minutes. And those all had to be rebuilt. The original hand dryers were ripped out of the walls. We have some cleanup and a little paint and TLC to do there. Floors cleaned, exit lights and exit signs. Oh my gosh, people forget about that stuff all the time. Need to be worked on. Again, some repairs. Now, we're going to end up, in 24 hours, we open. And people will be in here. We took care of the basic stuff that needed to happen. So all the HVAC units are operational. Got four of those, 4 big ones. They've been around for a little while, but they had an energy efficient upgrade just prior to us, prior to the previous company going away. These have been around for a while. They are owned by one of our personal trainers, and he and I just finished overhauling these along with a couple other people a couple of days ago. So these were brought in immediately, and we had to take down the weight stacks, grease, align all the rails, get rid of some rust, level them off. These are things, you know, if you're in operations, you have equipment that you have to worry about. Well, this is the operations equipment we have to worry about. So if something goes wrong with this, these not too bad. They're a little more safe, but some of the stuff that we'll look at up front, that stuff is literally life safety related. So for instance, a monolift, like competition monolift here. This is the one that was used on the ESPN WPO competition. We had people with doing squats of over 1,100 pounds, and you'll see that elsewhere. But basically, all of these parts have to be able to handle. Actually, we have to rate them at between 1,500 and 2,000 pounds. So those are some of the tests we perform to verify that nobody's going to get hurt or killed. Spotters and loaders are a great thing, but if somebody loses control and it starts to go down and we don't have anything there, then that's a problem. This type of equipment here, I'm rebuilding this over the next couple of days. It will not be ready when it's time to open. This was a used piece of equipment when we purchased the other space. The person who owned it did not maintain it as they were supposed to. So I will be spending several days getting this overhauled. I've got to replace most of the cords, so have to, those are on order. So those will come in and then have to rerun everything there. That's several days worth of work. That's overhaul. That's my production equipment. Simple Smith machines, had to make sure it was aligned, torqued properly, and everything else, so that when people start doing silly things with the Smith machine, like putting way too much weight and leaning back on the bars, they don't do what I did at a hotel in San Juan and bend the bars when forcing it to do something it wasn't supposed to do. All of the cardio equipment, we had one broken on the trip over. The other ones, I have to get some belts and go in, and there's electric motors in there that have to be lubricated. That will be done this weekend. So we'll be open. We know that these function, and somebody broke off a piece on that piece of equipment there. I have to get a new panel for it, and then so on and so on. So when you go into even your gym, you need to think about the fact that there's a little bit more to operating the gym from a reliability and maintenance perspective than people realize. All of this heavy loaded mil-spec grade equipment, because we will load these things up big time, all have lubricated bearings on them. I have to go through periodically and test them and lube them. That's actually a requirement when owning a gym. So we've had these for a while. As you can see, when I lubricate, not only does it have to be lubricated, but it has to look nice afterwards. This is very expensive equipment, meant to handle a heavy load, and we want to make sure that's okay. My project, one of my projects today, in addition to getting this place clean and neat, we have several people here. All the mechanics are my responsibility. So we have to anchor these down. There is nothing more fun than what happened to me when I was on a machine like this one, the lighter one here, than re-racking an 800-pound squat and having it tip forward, kick me backwards, which they had to then reattach a patellar tendon and my thumb. So, like I said, life safety. So when these are not properly set up, not properly maintained, you run into trouble. This is a historical device. This is one of the first mono pieces of equipment. You'll see this in action probably in some of the videos when we're doing personal training. I'm going to have to, well, in the workshop and back, I'm going to have a bead blaster. We've got an area loading dock that I did not show where I will be able to do some work back there. I'm going to have a small shack and everything else. But we're going to have to remove all the tags and everything, bead blast that, and then I've got a friend that will handle powder coating. That's a project for merch. But that is the original mono bench. So when you lift off, especially for those of us in specialized equipment as shown in those videos, if you're solo, that has all the safety bars, safety equipment, and when you lift off, it pulls back, and you don't have to move very much, which is when you're handling over a 1/4 ton for a bench press, that becomes kind of nice. When you do have a team around, you have this type of equipment here. When we go into competition, I bought this bench in order to improve safety for our spotters and loaders. So instead of having to move the weight, lift it off the uprights, and then move the uprights so that we could do work, such as with these types of benches. These are the normal competition benches. You can see there's a little work needs to happen on those. Face savers up front, those have to be properly maintained and fastened. It looks like I have to put through bolt on some of those, but those prevent, if we lose control of the weight, even though we have spotters and loaders when we're in the heavy weights, from it actually coming in contact with your chest or face. Those have to be maintained properly. And then of course in this one, getting back to this, same thing, face savers easily moved, fastened and welded to the bench. The bench itself is a lot more solid. There's lubricant, there's little pads that go back here to allow these to move up and down easily, because when we have, this is meant for the power lifters that can bench over a 1/2 ton. Yep, you heard me, 1,000-pound bench press. So the spotter and loader, instead of having to lift up a side, will actually use that lever arm to change position and the height of the bar for the lifter. We've got a second one of these coming, but this requires a lot of maintenance in order to keep people safe. So I'd say on average, I might spend, if I'm around, if I'm home, 20 hours a week training with my team, and another 12 to 20 hours maintaining equipment. Yes, that's a week. So that's always fun. How you doing? So back to some of the other stuff here. Of course, I think I gave you a quick overview. When we moved into the place, had to completely overhaul the front door, including locks and everything else in order to make inspection. That was done the first week. We passed immediately because I've done this a few times, but we're hoping that this is the last one. I have a pump room next door, which includes the fire system, which we're also responsible for. That's one of the things I do. Powerlifting powerlifting gyms are not a high margin. They're not high margin at all. It's not a high margin business. It's actually kind of tight, and as a result, it becomes very important that we do a lot of our own work. Lockers have to be fastened today to the wall, or I don't want anybody anywhere near them. We'll put caution tape up if we don't get to that. And of course, because of all the stuff we have, kind of a large water heater, energy efficient, and all that other neat stuff. But the things you don't think about when you deal with the gym, so I hone my skills on reliability and maintenance here. Actually putting together the maintenance schedule, performing a little RCM on some of the equipment. Yeah, believe it or not, that's how I practice. And so on and so on. Got some other cleaning, inspection, and other stuff to do in the building of our own, including tracing out the wires, including those cables up there that need to be finished. It's a combination of wires to the front desk for maintaining the audio system, to stuff for when they used to have cardio systems here beyond what we have. I've got to trace those out, keep the ones we want, and get rid of the rest. So that's about it for the first one. I'll probably have other videos of some of the stuff we have to do. Some of the other stuff we have to do in a facility like this, other than cleaning and painting, which I'll let some of the other guys do a little bit of that. I'm going to have fun taking care of the equipment, keeping people safe. That's right. In this case, when we talk about safety and reliability as a correlation, we have a direct measure. Have fun.